Okay, so my first question is why do so many entry level people fail? I hear this all the time, and then other people have told me that no, it's easy, just get a foot in the door any way you can, and you'll be off, and that'll be the start of this great career. But then on the flip side, I hear all these people that do get into these entry level roles, and they're failing. They're quitting, or they're not making the cut. So why does that happen?
Okay, so it happens for a number of different reasons, but probably the most straightforward and easiest way to answer it is that people just don't know what they're getting themselves into. A lot of people jump into the industry with a romanticized view about what mining is. They think that they're going to earn a lot of money, they're going to be part of this wonderful team that's going to be just like a big family and everything's going to be roses. When the reality of the situation sometimes can be very, very different. And one of the reasons why we wrote the training that we wrote back in the day as shift bosses is we just got sick of watching people fail because they weren't prepared properly. And it's not anybody's fault because the way the system's set up, the only way to learn how the mine works is to get a job apart from our training. Ours is the only non-company training that you can do in the country that teaches you how it all works. But not knowing how it all works and then jumping in and then expecting it all to go, you just leave yourself open to failing. And the easiest way to describe it is out of 100 people that go in for one of these nipper jobs or truck jobs or underground diamond driller jobs, you'll get 5 to 10 that are just ducks to water and they just get it straight away. Bang, they get it. And then you'll get another 30 people that will actually make a friend, and that friend will spend a fair bit of time with them and go out of their way completely to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And then the other 60 people that are left, they just fail. It just is what it is. So if
Yeah.
you don't know how it all works going in, then you leave yourself exposed to that. I often tell people the longer it takes you to find your feet, the more chance is that things can go sideways on you. And I've told this story before, but tag boards are a perfect example of that. I was working on a mine site where they had a bunch of new starters come up, and they were on their second day or third day underground, and they pulled up to the tag board, and one of the charge up guys jumped out of the ute and grabbed everybody's tag and moved it from one side to the other, which is highly illegal and instant dismissal if you get caught doing it. One of the one of the new nippers tried to jump out and say, I'll grab my own tag. He was like, leave it. There was a jumbo operator and somebody else. This was on our cross shift. So we walked into all this. This happened at knockoff. So we got a great big bollocksing about it in the morning meeting when we went into night shift.
Yeah.
But guess who pulled up directly behind the people that were doing the wrong thing? The underground manager and the resident manager, and they watched the whole thing go down. Now, there were 7 guys in the ute. 3 of them were brand new. They all lost their jobs on the spot. Everybody else, it was instant dismissal. But for everybody else in the ute, everybody knew what was going on. And before they got to the surface, they actually resigned. And you don't have to
Wow.
fire me. I've resigned. I've quit. I know I've done the wrong
Yeah.
thing. See you later. All those guys had jobs the next day. So they walked straight into another job, and it's just the way that works. The new starters, the 3 new starters, that was it. That's it. It's all over and done with. You're never going to get another job again. And that's just not
Yeah.
knowing what's going on around you and just being exposed to what goes on. And, I'm sure people will be able to, in the comments below, tell lots of stories that they've heard and seen happen around the place. But if you don't know what the rules are, you're totally relying on somebody to make sure that they're doing the right thing by you. And the easiest way to avoid that is to learn the rules for yourself. And that's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why we wrote the training, is that we just got sick of watching people fail because they didn't know what they were getting themselves into. And the other good thing is that if you do know exactly what you're getting yourself into, then it lets you make a real decision on whether you actually want to go mining or not. We get a lot of people that do the training that decide that mining's not for them. And if you do, and you spend $495 on the DIY and you decide it's not for you, then you've got out of it really, really cheaply. Because a lot of
Yeah.
people spend a fortune getting a job, quitting the job that they've got, getting up there, working out it's not for them, having to go back to wherever they came from, try and get another job, all that sort of stuff. And you're just burning cash the whole time. I saw a comment on a Facebook post. I think you probably saw it as well not too long ago with the guy that reckoned
Yeah.
he burnt 15 grand just doing that. And yeah, I don't not believe him. It's quite possible for that to
Yeah.
happen. So yeah,
Yeah.
much easier to work out whether you actually want to do it or not before you get there, and try to do everything you can to ensure that you're not going to be blindsided by anything, because that's how you end up failing. Like a lot of people fail and it's not their fault. It's just circumstance because they didn't know and they got thrown in the deep end, and the person that was supposed to be showing them didn't know themselves, or for whatever reason. And because there's so much failure, you can tell your story as much as you want on the way out the door. Nobody's going to listen to you. It just is what it is.
No.
I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
100% don't agree with it. But it is what it is. And, it's like, trying to, fight nature. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it too, if you have that education and you know what you're walking into on the job side of things, the other side of things, like the personal, the accommodation, being away from your family, feeling a bit isolated, maybe it makes that a lot easier if you know what to expect in the job and you've got that covered and you're feeling confident in that. I think it just makes the whole process a lot easier than kind of feeling like you're failing on both sides, especially if you do struggle being away from home. Some people don't, but some people, it can be a really big thing if you're struggling in a job and maybe feel like no one's helping you, and then you're also struggling being away from home. I think if you've got that education, you know what you're doing, and you feel like you've got work all covered, at least that's one part of it that's going to be a lot easier than it would be if you didn't know anything.
Yeah, and we go into the culture side of it as well. We actually tell you what happens with the carton system. So when you get on the plane for the first time, probably not on the plane, probably once you jump on the plane onto the bus to go back to camp for the first time with your crew, you jump on and somebody will yell out carton at you. And the reason they're yelling out carton at you is because it starters carton, because you're getting your first job. And I can tell you here and now, the person that yells out cartons, probably the dickhead of the crew that doesn't pay their cartons, because that's normally the way that one rolls. All right. Now, what we teach you in the training is a perfectly acceptable comment back to that person is that I will pay my starter's carton once I find out what crew I'm going on to and I get my first paycheck. And that's perfectly acceptable. And if you say something like that straight away, ears will prick up on the back of the bus because you know what the carton system is. So maybe you've got some experience and you might know a little bit about what's going on. Yeah, because the other thing that happens too, that I've watched happen a lot, is that people pay their carton to the first crew that they get shoved on, which isn't normally the crew that they stay with. So they pay that carton and then they get moved on to their permanent crew. And because they think they've already paid a carton, they don't have to pay another one. They don't pay their second carton to their full-time crew. And within 6 weeks, they're gone. And you drive them out to the airport and they all say the same thing. Oh, the first bunch of guys that I was with, they were a really good crew, but that second crew was a bunch of bloody assholes. And all it was down to was the fact that you didn't put your starters carton on. And if you put your starters carton on, you would have, completely. And yeah, I agree. Yeah, you shouldn't have to double up, but that's knowing the system. And if you'd done the training, you wouldn't have doubled up because you would have waited until you got on your permanent crew before you put your starters carton on, which is perfectly acceptable. And that's just knowing what you're getting yourself into. I think that's a good example.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
Cool.
Okay.